Okay. So check this out, and this is my last point before I get off of here. We're on the same site, not in our church, mind you, written by a Christian who was a victim. It literally says right here, there are studies, and this actually links to the study, which we'll click on, I guess. There are studies that demonstrate that the faith community is even more vulnerable to abuse than secular environments. The Abel-Harlow study revealed that 93% of sex offenders describe themselves as religious, and that this category of offender may be the most dangerous. Other studies have found that sexual abusers within faith communities have more victims and younger victims. And then when we click on it, it takes us to an article. Now, I haven't seen this. It says, startling statistics, child sexual abuse and what the church can begin doing about it. Think about the fact that that's even something that they have to say. What the church can do about it. Don't they have the Lord? Don't fucking Lord. Can't the Lord just like wave his arm and fucking eliminate rape totally? But whatever. Wow. Check it out. So, Abel Child Molestation Prevention Study. This study found that pedophilia molesters averaged 12 child victims and 71 acts of molestation. An earlier study by Dr. Abel found that out of 561 sexual offenders, there were over 291,000 incidents, totaling over 195,000 total victims. These are enough victims to fill 2.5 Superdomes. The same study found that only 3% of these sexual offenders have a chance of getting caught. Let me see. God damn. Study revealed that up to 38% of women were molested before turning 18 years old. This same study found that up to 16% of boys are molested before they turn 18 years old. Dr. Russell also discovered that only 5% of child sexual abuse have been reported to law enforcement. And so this is where they mention it is critical to note that this abuse is no less prevalent within the faith community. In fact, there are studies that demonstrate that the faith community is even more vulnerable to abuse than secular. The Abel-Harlow study revealed that 93% of sexual offenders describe themselves as religious, and that this category of offender may be the most dangerous. Other studies have found that sexual abusers within faith communities have more victims than younger victims. This disturbing truth is perhaps best illustrated by the words of a convicted child molester, assaulter. I consider church people easy to fool. They have a trust that comes from being Christians. They tend to be better folks all around and seem to want to believe in the good that exists in people. Now, that's fucking sad fact, right? Because this is the gift and the curse of theism. This is the gift and the curse of theism. See, people like to talk all the time about how being a theist makes them a better person. You know, I heard so many times people say, why do you care if what somebody believes if it makes them a better person? Because this isn't being a better person. Being willfully naive does not make you a good person, even if you want to think that it is. Because to me, and I've said this countless times, negligence, recklessness, willful ignorance, faith are just as evil as having bad intentions. To me, in the modern age, in the information age, they're the same. Because they're just as bad, if not worse. Because see, at least somebody who intentionally does something terrible is intending to do it. You think that not being judicious, you think that just doing things willy-nilly or just believing retarded shit for no fucking good reason is somehow a good thing. In the modern age, it's not. That's why I'm such an anti-theist. That's why I say this is not born of hate. This is born of love. When I mention stories about people like Jamie Coots, Pastor Jamie Coots, and how he lost his life for no good goddamn reason because he was retarded, because he wanted to believe some retarded ass passage in the Bible that said something about how you could get bitten by venomous snakes and somehow still survive. He took that at face value and wanted to believe it literally. So he wanted to fucking handle venomous snakes at his fucking, I think it was in Kentucky, in his Kentucky church. End up losing a finger because of it, and then ultimately end up losing his life as a result of it. And it's like it could have been easily avoided if he would have just got some fucking medical help. And that was another thing. He refused medical attention because he wanted to believe that his faith was gonna fucking solve the problem. That's why faith is dangerous. That's why faith is wrong. And that's why I say it's just as bad as evil intent. It's the same shit. It's basically recklessness. You're doing something for no good reason. You're doing it because you want to do it, because you want to believe that it makes sense, even if it doesn't. And as far as I'm concerned, that is just as evil. Like, as far as I'm concerned, recklessness, like negligence, they're just as bad, right? You leave your kids unattended for long bits of time and something bad happens. You might not have intended for something bad to happen, but you left them unattended, which increases the chances that something bad will happen. And you should be old enough to understand these basic facts in the information age. So the fact that you're dismissing it, that you're refusing to acknowledge it, that you're just acting like this is super amazing, that is the shit I don't respect. And so, as far as I'm concerned, you can miss all that shit. I don't care if you didn't mean to. You're just as guilty as somebody who did. Because we live in a time now where that's not an excuse. You should know better than that shit. Why would you choose to be willfully ignorant when we have data and information that is accurate, that is confirmed, that is verifiable, that is verified? You literally can verify it if you actually looked it up and learned how the shit works. But see, you choose not to do that, but you want to act like you know what the hell you're talking about anyway. Yeah, you're not somebody to listen to. And the fact that you can mislead somebody else is exactly the problem, which is why I do. So that's why I challenge all of these ridiculous ideologies, all these different political parties, all these fucking goofies out here that purport all this crazy shit all the time, because at the end of the day they're all full of shit, and I don't have any problem saying that to them. I don't care if I offend them, I don't care if I make them mad. They deserve to be mad, and maybe if they got their mind right, they would realize they're full of shit, and then they'll come my way and realize, hey, you didn't know what you was talking about. I didn't say that just to fucking try to embarrass you. I don't get on here to embarrass people. I get on here to embarrass fuckers that are embarrassing themselves. See, and that's the part that these fuckers don't like to really acknowledge, that they are actually embarrassing themselves, put themselves in these positions where literally somebody else already did all the work, right? Whoever created these sites, they did the work, they did the research. They're just not used to somebody like me actually fishing it out and putting it in your face like this. So when I do it, and then people actually are interested, and they're like, wow, this is actually crazy, like, what the fuck? Now these motherfuckers want to come out the woodworks and try to shut a nigga down. I ain't with none of that shit. Yeah, and that's ironic coming from C.S. Lewis, given that he was a super duper Christy Christian. But yeah, so at the end of the day, when we look at a lot of the shit that Trump does, a lot of it is because he's a fucking egotistical maniac. A lot of it is because he's a super duper Christy Christian and giving deference to these sci-fi fantasy ideologies. And so many of the last several presidents have been Christians. All of them have been full of shit. All of them have been in the pocket of banks and or corporations. We have all the data. Oh,